Hi there, and welcome to Nexus Research Lab. My name's Gordon Briley, and I'm going to go over some of the basics when it comes to mixing and storage instructions, otherwise known as reconstituting, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the doses and how to reconstitute different doses. First off, a disclaimer. I am not a doctor. I am just a guy who loves peptides and sharing how I and others utilize them. Always do your own research. So with that being said, I'm going to show how I go about reconstituting and then also some of the tools that I utilize to make this all happen. So first off, we're going to start with why do we have to reconstitute? And the brilliance of these being in the powdered form is it's going to have a really long shelf life. So you're able to ship them safely, and then you, the user, gets to decide when to reconstitute. So this has a shelf life of about 2 years. So once you reconstitute it, which you'll need to activate it, then it shortens the shelf life. It's going to be between 4 and 8 weeks, so 1 to 2 months. Beyond that, I believe that it loses its potency to some level, but I would just stick within that window. So first off, we're going to talk about some of the tools that you're going to want to utilize. And when I say tool, I mean a syringe. So this one here is the one that I utilize. And this is a 1 cc or 1 milliliter or 100 IU. Those all mean the same thing. And we're going to hear a lot of different numbers. And that's usually the most confusing part. And I know for me, that was definitely when I was first getting started, that was the part that scared me the most and I was most intimidated by. But I'm really hoping this will make it very, very simple. And every single person that has done this, once they've done it 1 or 2 times, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe I was sweating it, because it is actually very, very simple. You're going to intuitively start to understand what makes sense for dosing, and we're going to go over a lot of that with the education side of it. So once again, 1 milliliter. So milliliter is a measurement. So 1 cc, also the same thing, 100 IU. The other units that you're going to hear is the dosage of the peptide itself, the retatrutide in this example. So there's 5 milligram, 10 milligram, 20 milligram, and 30 milligram options. Then there is the bacterial static water. This is what you're using to reconstitute. If you have your own, that's fine. You can utilize that. If not, it's available on the online store. This comes in 3 milliliters. So a 3 milliliter vial. And pretty much for every vial, you're going to need one of these for one of these. If you happen to have some left over from a previous purchase, then maybe you won't need it. So you'll kind of figure that out as you go. And so we're just going to continue on. And the other thing, which is in our kit, would be just regular old alcohol prep pads. So these come with it, the needles and that. And you're going to utilize that to clean the vial. I already did some cleaning with hand sanitizer. Make sure you have a clean surface, stuff like that. Obviously, you want to be mindful of that type of stuff. So what we're going to do is get right into it. I want to reconstitute it so we don't sit here and talk forever. One thing to think about or know is once you reconstitute it, you are going to want to put it in the refrigerator, keep it cool. So just something to be conscious of. Otherwise, if you're keeping it, I would keep it in a dark place. Somewhere it's not going to be really hot, it's room temperature, but it'll be fine long term. So if you don't utilize it right away, not a big deal. So let's get into the actual reconstitution process. So I'm using here as an example a 10 milligram vial of retatrutide. A lot of you beginners will probably utilize the 10 milligrams. So this would be a great place to start. And this is where it gets really, really simple. So first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to pop this top. So we'll just pop it off. Both of these. Now we're going to break one of these out. I'm going to clean both of the tops. Then I'm going to place that aside. Now, for the syringe. This syringe, if you can see it, has 1 milliliter, 100 IUs. I really like the 100 IUs because I talk a lot in units. So when it comes to drawing out the bacterial static water, for 10 milligrams, so the first number of the dose is going to give you a clue in how much bacterial static water to use. So if it's 10 milligram, it's number 1 is the first of that. So you will take 1 milligram of bacterial static water and place it into the vial to reconstitute. If this was a 20 milligram vial dose, you would then take 2 milligrams of, or 2 milliliters of this bacterial static water, and so on. So if it's 30 milligrams, then you would take all 3 milliliters. So you would use this entire vial and then inject it into the peptide. So one thing to know is these peptides, before they're reconstituted, are a little bit prone to damage because they're delicate amino acids. So you don't want to be slamming around. They're not that delicate, but you just don't want to be beating them around and shaking them. And you actually don't want to shoot the water directly onto the peptide. You're going to want to put it in the vial, and I'm going to actually do that here in a second. Tilt it to its side and let it run slowly into the peptide. So not to cause any disturbance. Once it's reconstituted, no big deal at all. So now we're actually going to start drawing some of the bacterial static water. Again, this is 10 milligram dose, so I only need 1 milliliter. That is going to be the full syringe, 100 units here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 100 units of air. I'm going to push it directly into the center of that bacterial static water. I'm going to push it in, and this is going to create pressure. It's going to help me draw it out. So now I'm going to flip it over. Now it's going to actually suck this water right out. So it's doing it by itself right now. I'm going to draw it. So here, all the way to the 1 milliliter or 100 unit line. You try to not get air bubbles, but it's not the end of the world. The air bubbles are not going to hurt. You can flick it. And so I'm going to draw it right to 100. And then I'm just going to pull it out. So now, just going to flick it. Maybe get a little bit of pressure. But now what I want to do is be careful, because when you inject this into the peptide, it's going to have that reverse pressure now. So it's going to want to shoot in there. So I'm literally pushing against the plunger to hold it still. I'm going to right in the center of the vial. And these needles here, this has an 8 millimeter needle. So that's how long it is. And it is 32 gauge. So higher the gauge, the smaller the needle. So you will have to be careful. I actually just broke a needle. So you will want to be careful. If that happens, not a big deal. You can just get another needle and start over. You can actually pull the plunger and then reuse that water. So not a big deal, but these ones are smaller gauge, larger gauge, smaller needle. And I did that on purpose for people that really just don't like injecting, although you can't even feel these needles most often. So anyways, back to adding, reconstituting. So I hold it sideways, tilt it, and now that the plunger is actually going to want to take off itself. I'm holding it down. It's going in by itself, nice and slow. Nice and slow. I'll probably speed this up. Little spin. Get some of the powder. Rolling it, not shaking it. Okay, so now I'm going to just spin this in my hands. I'm not shaking it. So if this was a 20 milligram vial, I would just draw another one. If it was 30, I would do the whole contents, all 3 milliliters. So hopefully that is very, very simple. Now the only other thing that could be a little bit confusing would be the 5 milligram dose, because with a 5 milligram, I still put 1 milliliter of water in it, the bacterial static water. So because it's not an even number like 1 is, then it's going to change the dilution of it. So that's going to be the only thing that's a little bit different. And I'm going to show you guys a peptide calculator and how to use these. I use a peptide calculator every single time that I go to dose to make sure that I have everything correct. So now this is reconstituted. It will take some time for that peptide to actually break down and become fully reconstituted. So you're going to want to let that sit for, sometimes it can take 30 to 45 minutes, but after that, then it'll be ready to go. If you see that it's fully diluted, then it's good to go. It can be a little bit different, but at this point, with a 1-to-1 ratio with 10 milligram vial and 1 milliliter, this is where it makes it really easy. So for 1 single milligram dose, let's say I was going to dose 1 milligram per week, which is what I'm going to do with this as a microdose. What you want to do is the same thing as when you draw this out, you do the same thing. So at 10 milligrams, I want a 1 milligram dose. I'm just going to pull this to the 10 and then shoot the air in. Shoot the air into the vial, flip it upside down, pull it back out to 10, and that's going to be 1 milligram. So the same thing's going to go for when it is a 20 milligram vial. When you pull out 10 units, so the 10 mark on this vial, it's also going to be 1 milligram, but that vial is going to have a lot more doses within it. So that's why you would order a 20 milligram versus a 30 milligram. So you do want to make sure that you're not ordering 30 milligrams thinking that you're just going to get way more out of it, because remember, it only lasts between 4 and 8 weeks. So if you don't utilize that dosage by then it's going to kind of go to waste, because the potency is going to go down and the shelf life has technically expired. So you definitely want to get the right dose that makes sense for you in your current situation, and that's going to save you a lot of time and money and frustration getting that right. So that's how we go about reconstituting. So if you guys have any questions, be sure to ask. Hopefully you guys have either joined the Facebook page, or once the app is up and going, you can ask all the questions you want there in the community. So thanks for watching. You guys have a great night.